So, hi and welcome to the show. My name is Gavin McRae and I'm from G.J. McRae Foundation Repair. And this is our new video series where we'll tackle all things basement waterproofing and foundation repair related here in the Greater Toronto area. So we call this series In the Field, where we not only break down the premise of foundation repair, but also show you a complete time-lapse production of a full repair project. So let's get right into it. So this project was an interesting one that essentially originates way back to the start of the Second World War. So basically in the early 1940s, a rather large conflict was occurring in those days, and at that time, Canada, being a dominion of Britain, was really heavily involved in that war effort. Europe had essentially fallen, and the last hope island, as it was known, was really the United Kingdom. Now, resources were nearly non-existent for the Allied army in Europe in the early 1940s, and basically every raw material available in North America was sent overseas to directly support that war effort. This included everything from rubber to timber to chocolate, sugar, trucks, tanks, wheat, and of course troops. Basically everything was sent overseas, and Canada's domestic economy really stagnated. So under Canada's war economy, which was really sending all of its resources overseas, unfortunately a housing crisis appeared and the Canadian government essentially had to act really fast. So they commissioned a wartime housing department and basically began the construction of approximately 30,000 homes here in Canada, known as wartime homes, or the better known term in the area, strawberry box homes, due to their exacting dimensions. All of them were basically 25 by 25 feet, one-story bungalow structures. So these structures were located sort of all over Ontario, but this exact project in particular was a strawberry box build in the Hamilton area. So essentially these houses were all prefabricated poured concrete structures with no real basements or access to a basement. And with so much haste during their construction, generally speaking, they were underbuilt, and they do suffer from potentially serious structural defects, mainly related to the joist work and interior beams. Again, building materials were really rationed in those days, so these things were really there to serve a purpose in the moment type thing, which they did. This housing program housed, tens of thousands of civilians, soldiers, families, and basically everyone. But now in 2023, they generally do require some maintenance. So the client requested us to cut a proper entryway through the concrete foundation wall that would basically allow him to access the underside of the structure really for the first time in almost 80 years. The client was preparing to complete some renovations of the top floor of the house, but prior to that, he really noticed some significant sagging and cracking beneath the main floor, so he didn't want to complete a renovation until the structural deficiencies were sorted out and the access in the underside of these strawberry box homes is very difficult, if not impossible, without essentially cutting an entranceway. So that's basically where he called us in. So how we started was basically shoring up the existing joist work that was exposed and available. And as luck would have it, it was in a part of the basement where an addition was added post-war. So that did give us a decent access where we didn't need to excavate from the exterior to start things off. So once we had the upper structural loads of the house secured, we essentially drew out our proposed door opening, and with a wet saw from the interior, we essentially, cut a brand new opening. And you'll see that in the upcoming time lapse. We use a very interesting concrete saw to complete this process. So once the concrete was essentially cut right through, we removed the concrete block with chipping hammers and disposed of that material. Next was a pretty thorough cleanup, because anyone who's ever cut concrete with or without water before knows how soupy and messy that kind of stuff can be. So a really good cleanup is essential. Next, after the cleanup, we installed a proper timber lintel over top of the new opening and pocketed that into the foundation walls with brick and S-type masonry. Now, once that was cured, kind of by the next day, we essentially framed around the concrete opening with timber and installed a custom door. So this will essentially allow the client and the engineer permanent access to the underside of the structure in a straightforward way, and will also help during any future structural repairs that take place inside of that crawl space. Interestingly enough, this wall was bench pinned from the exterior, and the bottom threshold of that doorway was approximately 2.5 inches above the crawl space grade, just for reference. So that's the general breakdown of where and why a project like this may come to pass. So enjoy the coming time-lapse video of this project, and I'll stop during that video and point out areas of interest that are applicable to the diagrams. And thank you again for tuning in. And if you have any questions related to basement waterproofing, foundation repair, or underpinning, just give us a call anytime. We can be reached online at wetbasements.com. Enjoy the video.